This is Justin Case of American Newscape. Please join Jeff Griffin, transformational speaker, and myself. Jeff has graciously come back today, offering a glimpse into helping us get out of the sauna, or keeping us from falling back into the sauna is probably a better way to put it. Hello, Jeff. Welcome to American Newscape.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me back. I'm telling you, this is kind of fun. It's so enjoyable for me. I'm like at a loss of words. I'm like, you're actually inviting me back? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I am here.
Well, I don't have that effect on many people, Jeff. Please, this is all related to, where I've had a chance to glimpse at this is in your book, I'm Possible. And that's where a lot of these tools are. That's where you're going to help me stay out of that sauna or fall back into it.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. In fact, one thing that I would love to do for your listeners is to offer that book to them if they go to my website, and I'm sure you'll have that website on the ticker or somewhere else. But if they go to griffinmotivation.com and they enter the coupon code LOVE, we'll give you any of the books at 50% off.
Wow.
And of course, that possibility principle that I offered a couple times back is I'm telling you right now, it's in the book. It's in the title page of it. And that possibility principle is free for anybody who texts possible. I'm sure you'll put that ticker up there and remind people of that opportunity to get that possibility principle, that P squared mindset. I'm telling you, if you can develop that P squared mindset, that's going to set you up. It really is. And last time we talked about exiting the sauna of self-pity. And what we need to do here is you've got to have a portion of that P squared mindset to exit. But because of our poor programming and because of who we are as human beings, our nature, whenever a difficult challenge or a major setback is presented in front of us, we want to survive. We want to protect ourselves. We want to be able to continue to live a life. But because of that, we go into the shadows of society. We go into the shadows of our dreams. We disconnect, and things become dreadful. And because of that, we disconnect with our future, with the possibilities, the hopeful and brighter future that is out there. Because what's interesting is the future doesn't even exist because it's out there. The past doesn't exist because it's back there. And a lot of us fret about the past and fuss about the future. And both of them don't even exist. What exists is right now. And where are we? Are we in the sauna or are we outside of the sauna? Because I'm telling you right now, Justin, if you're outside the sauna, I'm telling you, you are a step ahead of most people. And that's a great thing. But we don't want you to go back into the sauna because poor programming and past experiences will lead us to go right back there unless we are prepared. When the moment to perform has arrived, the moment for preparation has passed. And so if you're outside the sauna and something else comes along that might be dreadful, might be disappointing, might be fearful, might create some doubts, our tendency is going to go back to what's familiar. And that sauna is what's familiar. And we don't want to go back into that sauna, but because of our programming, our peers, and our past, we tend to do that if we're not prepared with some tools. And that's what I want to do here is give you a quick tool, if I can, to help you stay out of the sauna, stay out from returning back to the sauna.
Well, poor programming, we're not talking about NBC.
Okay, absolutely. No.
We're talking about personal programming.
Yes, the personal programming that's happening in our mind that we're continually to feed. In fact, what I talked about when the moment to perform has arrived, the moment for preparation has passed. When there's pressure presented to us, which is typically in a difficult challenge or a major setback, which some of us have experienced or are experiencing right now, currently, that pressure tends to bring out of us what's inside of us. I didn't say that pressure brings out the best of us, because what's inside of us really isn't the best for some of us. We're pretending and we're going through life as if everything's great, and we haven't been putting in that good stuff. And I always say that I love the law of the harvest. It was not even the law of the harvest, but I just love the idea of nature, how nature is true, how fruit is true to its nature. Meaning that if I have an apple and I apply pressure to it, whenever we apply pressure, whatever is inside comes out. And so if I apply pressure to an apple juice is going to come out. If I apply pressure to a pineapple juice is going to come out. Fruit is true to its nature. Human beings, when we apply pressure to human beings, whatever we put in the past comes out. And so that's what I mean by programming, right? Not those other social media or other news organizations, but the programming that we've been putting in, how others have been putting in, from 0 to 5, 0 to 8, depends on which study you go and take a look at. We've just been receiving this information into our subconscious, and that's part of our programming. Our surroundings is part of our programming. We see things, we're triggered by things. Nature triggers some things as well. And so here we have this programming that's taken place. And so if George Bernard Shaw is accurate, he says that 2% of the population think, 3% of the population think they think, and 95% of the population would rather die than think.
Bernard Shaw.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody. I'm not a big Bernard Shaw fan, but I believe Jeff does this just to make me just confuse me. So, all right, Jeff, repeat that quote one more time, and then give us your tool.
Absolutely. Now, whether you're a fan or not, if you observe, if you observe people around you, you're like, holy cow, that's pretty accurate. George says that 2% of the population think, 3% of the population think they think, and 95% of the population would rather die than think.
Okay.
And so if he's accurate, there's 98% of the population that's not thinking. And what's interesting here is if we don't think, our programming kicks in and we just automatically. And so what we need to do here is we need to have some tools to help us overcome that past programming. And most times it is poor programming, because whenever the pressure increases, whatever we put in comes out. And for most of us, right, especially with this pandemic, we've been running. And we've been thinking that we are going to just die, we're going to be destroyed, and all these things are taking place. And so we start to dread, and we start to go into that protective mode, that survival mode, just save myself mode, because I have never experienced some of these things that are going to consciously help me take off to a bigger, brighter, beautiful future that's in front of us. And the thing is the future hasn't happened yet, but we've created a future that's possibly or probably or whatever it is going to take place. And so in order for us to go back to that area, to go back to that sauna, to go back to the way we've been thinking, because they say that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I love the fact that people say that, hey, listen, different is better. But I've learned that different isn't always better, but better is always different. And I've used the same words, but just that small little change here, I call it the paradox principle. I know I'm talking about all these possibility principles, paradox principle, and all these other things, but paradox principle, right? The temperature for freezing is 32 degrees. The temperature for melting is 32 degrees. It just depends on which direction you're going. And so what I want to do here is I want to help people get out of their sauna if they haven't. And there was a question that changed my life that was, hey, why are you crying, dude? Why are you focused on the things that you can't do and begin focusing on the things that you can do?
Sure.
And so what I've learned is my new dream is to walk again. I'm like, I want to walk again. And I told the doctor, and the doctor's like, no, Griff, that's impossible. And he told me all the reasons why it was. And he reminded me of the incision and the scar and the wound that I had on my stomach. I was cut from my belly button all the way to my backbone. He detached my diaphragm, deflated my lung, cut one of my ribs off, and cleaned up the shrapnel and put a 4-inch plate in there. And then he sewed me up and stapled me shut. And so every day I had this evidence that was completely, accurate. The doctor's like, Griff, you'll never walk or move again. And the evidence was stacked up against me. I couldn't move. I couldn't stand. I couldn't feel my legs. It took me half an hour to get out of my bed. And as I mentioned before, is all that put me into the sauna. And that question helped me come out of the sauna. And so the next question is, have you gone back? And I'm like, no, I have not gone back. And the P squared principle, the possibility principle, that P squared mindset is the thing that has really helped me stay out. And the possibility principle is for anybody who will text possible to the number that is going to come across your screen. But that P squared mindset is huge. And part of that P squared mindset is the ability to flip the switch and reconnect. I call it flip the switch and reconnect. When you come into a room and it's dark and you want to see, what do?
You flip the switch.
You turn on the switch. You flip the switch, and all of a sudden there's that reconnection. And I've been to houses where it's been an old, beat up, dungy house that hasn't been maintained properly, and the breaker flips all the time. But what's interesting is I've never seen the person who lives there have a temper tantrum and say, oh, the lights went off. They just go down, they go to the breaker, they flip the switch again. So now their lights work again. And so what we need to do here is we need to learn how to flip the switch. Flip the breaker, flip the light switch, flip the switch on our reality. My reality at that time in the hospital was I can't walk, I can't stand, I can never move again. And the evidence was stacked up against me. I had a scar to prove it. My legs couldn't feel. It took me half an hour to get out of my bed. And all these things were stacked up against me, but I had this dream of walking again. And the doctor's like, Griff, it's impossible. In fact, he pointed his finger at my chest and says, don't ever get your hopes up again. Wow. You never stand, you never move, you never walk. And I love the quote from Muhammad Ali that said, impossible is just a big word that's thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it.
So much more eloquent than Shaw. I mean, when you think about it.
You're a Muhammad Ali fan, okay? Absolutely. We're gonna see who's your fan and who's not your fan. But I love truth is truth, right? And that's what we're looking for here. And they say that the truth will set you free, and I really do believe that. And here I was in this situation where I'm like, Griff, you'll never stand, you'll never walk again. It's stacked up against you, and it's been 20 plus years, and now I can get up and I can walk across the stage or waddle with swagger. Outside my window is a mountain called Mount Ben Lomond that I just summited and climbed. It was 9,711 feet. It took me 3 hours to walk up there, 4 hours to get back down. It would probably been faster if I just would have rolled down there. But I'm to the point where I'm taking steps where I was told that I would never be able to take steps again. And that question, why are you crying, dude? Snapped me out of my pity party, got me out of that sauna of self-pity, and allowed me to start looking at the possibilities. Because in my mind, I'm like, there is no possibility for me to have a brighter future. There is no possibility for me to live a life worth living. And what's interesting here is, again, going back to those demons of doubt, fear, and complacency. And our drive to be protected and to survive what we think is imminent danger. And there are some real imminent danger things out there that does kick in and does help us. And we're like, yes, it helped me. But most of the time, it's just perceived danger because we're fretting about the future and fussing about the past. And both of them are things that don't even exist yet. And so flipping the switch, flipping the switch. How can I flip the switch? Because once I flip the switch and say, you know what? Yeah, that is possible. The switch is flipped right back and it breaks. And there's things that happen. And you're like, well, you know what? No, that's not possible. You know, no, the doctor's right. Nope, I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. But one thing that I did to help flip the switch and create this P squared mindset, this possibility principle, is to focus on what you can do. And what I could do is I could go out to the front of the hospital and I could see myself, envision myself doing things in my mind before I could actually do them physically. And I would sit out there reading my Calvin and Hobbes cartoon book. I don't know if you're a Calvin and Hobbes fan or not, but I look at Calvin, I'm like, that is me. That was me as a little kid. And I would read my Calvin and Hobbes books, and I would try to diagnose people as they came into the hospital, you know, what their ailment was. I'm like, physical, social, mental.
Yeah.
All at the same time, while here I am doing exercises in my mind as well. I'm trying to lift my legs in my mind. I'm trying to do squats in my mind. I'm trying to do leg presses. And I'm envisioning myself walking again, even to the point where I'm sweating. And I mean grunting. I'm grunting as if I'm lifting weights again. And people are passing by me and they're doing a double take. They're like, mental.
Mental, yeah.
That guy escaped from the mental ward. And I've been called delusional a couple times. I've been called Pollyannish other times. But what's interesting is once we take some time to listen to that song that sings in our soul, and we start to look at the things that we can do instead of what we can't do, we begin to dream in color. We begin to plan and prepare for a brighter future than what's currently happening right now. In fact, part of the possibility principle and the P squared mindset is the ability to find hope. In fact, Angela Duckworth says that hopeful people are gritty people. Actually, she says gritty people are hopeful people. I like to believe that hopeful people are gritty people. And what I mean by hope is the ability to reach out to the future and grab onto your dreams and bring it back to the present in spite of your past.
Wow.
And so flipping the switch. If we understand that we have a switch to flip in the first place, that we can change the way we have defined those emotions, defined our experiences around us, and that we have the ability to change our future by changing our thoughts today. And what's interesting, Justin, is a lot of things that were deemed impossible. Sorry, let me do this. What we do today on a regular basis was once deemed impossible in the past. And what I mean by that is Madame Curie was told that there's no more elements to be found. She found 2 and a Nobel Prize. You know, the Wright brothers were told that you can't control flight, and we can get around the country in hours on a plane now. And it's what's interesting is inside that plane is an attitude meter, and it gets the plane from point A to point B. And if the plane is going from LA to New York, and it's just off 1 degree, it's going to end up in Washington, D.C. or Boston, Massachusetts. Not a big deal, right? It's a huge deal if you want to go to New York. And so what we need to do here is we need to create some consistent and a concentrated routine. And perhaps maybe if you'll allow me to come back again, I'd love to talk about those, what I like to call the holy habits and righteous routines. What can we do to create and help us flip this switch consistently and constantly and stay in that plane and on that plane a whole lot longer than we have been able to, because we're always flipping the switch. You know, we're like, yeah, it's possible. You know, the next day we wake up and we're like, never mind. You know, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to start tomorrow. You wake up, you're like, never mind. Maybe tomorrow. And so our switches are being flipped all the time. And I love to use the example of, have you ever done this before, Justin, where you're talking to somebody and they make you mad? It seems to happen with my wife quite a bit. I always make her mad. But and what's interesting is she's always blaming me. She's like, "You make me so mad." I'm like, "Is it me that makes you mad? Because I thought I'd like, just cause your heart to, skip a beat." And we have these people who like to blame their emotions on other people, but and they're like, "I don't have control. You are the ones that's making me mad. This situation is making me feel this way." But what's interesting, if you've ever had a conversation where you're just upset and you're just going at it and you're bickering, like, and then the phone rings, and all of a sudden you go pick up the phone, and all of a sudden you flip the switch, and you're like, "Hello."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once you're done with the conversation on the phone, you hang up, and you just go right back. And so we all have a switch that we can flip. But how do we do it? How do we consistently flip that switch? And how do we stay on that positive plane,
Well,
that hopeful?
Jeff, I'm going to invite everybody to check out what you're offering free, the possibility principles within that text, and to read your book. Come back and give us some more when you have some more time. It's a wonderful gift you shared with us today, and I personally thank you. This has been Justin Case and Jeff Griffin sharing a glimpse into some remarkable possibilities. Thanks for joining us. Please remember, the necessary information is provided below in the links in the videos. Read more. And I want everybody out there to consider supporting humanity anywhere and everywhere, anytime you can. Please remember, consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you.